the final day of Dream League, my friends. It has been a beautiful season 27, getting a chance to spend it with all of you. And now, only 3 teams remain. They're hoping to seal their fate and get their first trophy of the new East season. But because it is December, and it is at the end of our year, then one important thing that I want to share with all of you is, I want to wish you a Merry Dream League. I want to wish you a Merry Dream League. I want to wish you a Merry Dream League.
So it's just always great to have kind of another team come in and suddenly be this kind of tournament, grand finalist, tournament winner, to just sort of add to the teams that we're already very used to seeing time and time again, get to every grand finals.
And get to every single EPT event as well, because the Dream League Season 27 is a part of, like I said, our brand new season of competition. This is the very first stop on that tour. 21,100 points being doled out, and one of 4 opportunities this year. No, yesterday had a fair amount of action as well. We talked about Yannick, but still, the fact that they were able to 2-0 Team Spirit, that was unexpected, to say the least, and like wildly outrageous. close, but yesterday they fell short and were now eliminated. You can take a look at what happened in their series against Pari Vision, because this was a comparatively anticlimactic lower bracket semi.
I love that 9 Clash is dead the moment that the clip starts, because that was pretty much half of this game. The guy was running around and dying, but they were wasting a lot of time on him for the side of the screen. I think it took like one good kickoff from 9 Clash that led into like a whole series of events that spiraled this game out of control. And then the third game, or the second game, not even close. They picked 9 Clash Caudle. And that seems to be his new hero that he likes spamming, that is determined is really overpowered. And this one, I don't know. I feel like something looked off for Paravision. Like they were missing some execution in the early days of First. No, for Paravision. Oh, that's the other game, right? It looked like XG was stupid. Yeah, it's like the Paravision seems to be a little volatile right now. When they're doing well, they look unbelievable. They look peak. But when they're not, it's almost like they have problems with each other. You know, like it looks like there's some emotional or mental damage going on. So I really hope we get the ladder today, and that they show up and we have a Paravision with momentum, because then we're gonna have an incredible lower bracket final.
It's a really interesting matchup, because I think Spirit has got an individual between the team good matchup against Paravision. The way Paravision drafts, they pick a lot of this sort of weird skirmish stuff off. Oftentimes they skip out on draft integrity for comfort. And Spirit is one of the best teams at punishing you when you have big holes in your draft. So I think Paravision being able to overcome that gives them very good, hopes for the finals if they make it there. Because Spirit, I think, is kind of big dogging them recently. They 2-0 them on the way here, and it was nothing.
They let them have the James twice in a row, right?
They looked at the one, barely picked it, and then they just ignored it.
And that's always concerning, because it does feel like in 9 classes hero pool. I think you said it earlier, like it's like 4 heroes, 3-4 heroes. He's got his pros, and if they have the fourth one, then Paravision is good. If it's just 3, then they look bad, because you can ban them out. And I think historically that's pretty accurate. Although I will say, like, I do think he has more than 4 right now. He's willing to whip them out. Like,
He's whipping out.
what are the more than 4? People were questioning his Mark. He has Mark, he has Monkey King, he has Caudle, he has Nick's and I think Spirit Breaker is very good as well. I genuinely believe that some of these heroes are like underrated S tier. If you can play that sort of like tail and play style, I really do think the character style is good right now. I mean, Foxman doesn't have to this game as well. So being able to do both is important. Of course, you have to pretty stock standard 4 position, I would say.
And regardless of how far they get to progress, they've at least secured themselves a fair number of PPT points and prize winnings as well. Now, 3 teams remain. Loser of the next series only gets to go home with $75,000. If you win, then you are guaranteed at least $125K. If you take the entire tournament, $200K in your pocket and $30K for the club reward. And at this point, I think that your APG will easily get you, guaranteed get you Dream League 28 and Birmingham. And I think it would be pretty hard to dethrone first place from not making their way to Dream League 29. So way off in the future, based off of direct input. So a lot on the line for basically just one best of 5.
Absolutely. Yeah, great way to sort of start the season with one of these teams.
Exactly.
So very exciting and a lot to play for today.
And even though you know that there are only 3 teams left, I'll let you know when they're going to happen and how they're going to happen. 1 best of 3 and 1 best of 5 remain. Lower bracket finals between Team Spirit and Pari Vision will be taking place in just a matter of minutes. And then at 16 CET at the earliest, we'll have Yandex taking on the winner. But depends on if it's a 2-0 or a 3-game series. I would hope for a 3-game series. Spirit versus Pari Vision. All these teams are grand final teams.
It's a rematch of the Rally Grand Finals. Let's get
some good games in. Let's get some competitive action. I think Spirit's angry. I think they do have a good matchup, but I think Paravision's got that momentum, and they've looked good with it recently.
They definitely do have the momentum. They did look better yesterday. They did against Spirit, absolutely. I think they're on the up. I think they're figuring out more of their strategies. And Spirit, they're coming down with they kind of got smacked.
Yeah, man.
That little
Day yesterday.
They looked lost. Like they straight up got flat.
They came into that series being undefeated in the playoffs. They got 2 2-0s back-to-back, and then they got smooshed by the end. So I don't really know where to put Spirit. Granted, I've never considered Spirit to be an emotional team. I consider them to be pretty rock solid consistently.
Yeah.
But then I just don't really know what to make of them getting 2-0.
Me neither. It's very strange, and so there's a lot of dynamics at play there. I think it's a series that can go either way. It can definitely go 3 games. It's honestly a really exciting one. I think both storylines and also gameplay.
I'm for it. You guys want to cast it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
that-
I'm looking forward. As long as I will say, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I'm hoping that we don't get Satanic Abaddon. I don't want anything else. I love this guy as a carry, but watching him play Abaddon, I'd rather watch paint dry. I don't want to see him farm a minus radius for 20 minutes. Don't do it, Paravision. I would be very disappointed.
Taking a beautiful artist and making him just paint with crayons. What's happening here?
Get him that Kez. Get him the crazy stuff. No more about it.
High skill. This is the donk of Dota. Get him some. Give him an op.
Don't waste his G's.
I don't think Donk is a rifler.
He's not an op.
He's not an op.
Give him a rifle. I don't
Give him
know.
a
Give him a rifle. Give him an MP50.
No, not a rifle.
I don't know.
We'll stick to our expertise, which is Dota, and we'll stick to our expertise of getting that lower bracket final on your screen. Let's get ready for Spirit versus Paravision.
I wanna wish you a Merry Dreaming. I wanna wish you a Merry Dreaming. I wanna wish you a Merry Dreaming from the bottom of my heart. I wanna wish you a Merry Dreaming. Oh, I wanna wish you a Merry Dreaming. Well, I wanna wish you a Merry Dreaming from the bottom of my heart.
All right, we need to talk about the upcoming match, and I got a couple of clips for you guys. I know I've got some 9th class enthusiasts.
Hello, Kentu.
Hello.
See you on the panel. They just jumped
That was
right in.
not your time to introduce yourself. No, that was not your time yet.
We got
Quiet.
Dota right now.
Look at these guys just jumping into my segment. And because, look at this. Jenkins, I know you love this guy. Look at Mr. 9th class himself. You know, to a normal brain, this might look like he's feeding. But this is a concept. If you allow no one to get touched here first at the tier 1, he will die straight up. They might lose the tier 1 tower. But 9th class, he's so low level. He takes the first pressure, dies, because he's level 2, Jenkins style. He respawns nearly immediately, so he can count for round 2, and this looks like a feed, but actually this allows him to defend the tier 1 tower. It allows him to kill the Leshrac, and it allows no one to have a little bit of a comeback in this game. Now this is Satanic, and it's very important in your pubs, my friendos out there, that you actually pay attention to what your team is doing. Like he is. He keeps looking. Even here, he's like, this bottom tier 2, I can TP there. But he decides against it. He farms towards his team. He joins them in the team fight. He has this big bro, no one who drops in the galactic. And even after the initial fight is over, pay attention to their positioning, because they know that Mr. Birdman, Ame, he might come around. They hide. They walk behind the tree. They wait for their initiation. They catch Ame on the bird. And with all of this, they then also later, you know, they're like, okay, the Radiant side, they have Tide, they have Flesh, maybe they can Roach. But look at their smoke gang. They go top to Ame again. They were scanning Roach beforehand, so they find him back to back in a game where they're actually down quite a bit of gold, you know, 4k, 5k gold. And after this, they kill Ame, they get a good static, and then in a few seconds, you have Dookie Doo, who drops an Observer Ward here that gives him the vision on Mr. X Nova, so they find 3 kills. They have a good aggressive ward that then also gives them the Leshrac later after the kill. And then on top of all of this, they turn it into Roach. So this is a team that if you give them an opening, and you allow 9th class to 9-dog it up, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble, because you gotta be ready, Jenkins. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you. Great to see you here, Lacoste. Great to see you, Kezu.
Great to see you.
You're just excited about the Dota, which
I am.
I appreciate that. I respect Kezu.com/shorts if you want to see more content like that.
URL.
Yeah, that's great. No, I love this guy's gameplay, but I feel like I've been hamming on it so much. So, what do you think, Lacoste?
What do I think? He's the GOAT. He's the only guy who can have this Herald item build work in professional esports environment, because he had a mana boost yesterday, like no other items, 5 empty slots mana boost. If I see this in my pub, I know the game.
He's reporting.
Yeah,
He's
he's getting reported for sure.
Branches are expensive empty slots anymore. I used to.
That's true, but you also like need to do something with that inventory.
Where's the stick, the win lanes,
If you know anything, smoke, one grenade.
On Nyx, you don't need to win lace. You're hasted.
You watched so many nights last week.
Win lace is a waste of item. It's a waste of your slot. Waste of your gold.
He did have blood grenades. He was chipping them out before he died, so he could die even faster. He's trying to speed quicker.
He did die 10 times.
No, he said, Kessler said to the Herald mind, it's the feed.
That's true.
But,
To us.
Welcome to Herald.
but at the elevated level, it's enabling a mid lane invoker to have the maximum potential and not lose his tier 1, right? Because of the takeaway?
We were joking, but like he died 10 times in that game as Nyx passed him. And the other cores, they only died once. So
He did a great job. Yeah, he spaced it up for them. And what is curious after that, I did some investigating to the heroes because, sometimes maybe not so easy to know which heroes will this be picked, which hero will that be picked. So, I looked at what Pari Vision might pick for his production people. Roll up the images because production.jpeg/shorts. So, on the left side, you have Night Class and Ian. These are heroes that they're very likely to pick. I mean, they don't have like the biggest heroes, but they stick to their stuff. The Monkey King's the Slark, the Nixus, the Column. He's very annoying, this guy. You want to like abuse him in the lane and try to catch him. So on the right side, you have the Tusk, the Bad Clock, SP, Disruptor. These are all likely heroes I can see Spirit pick if they're good against this type of style. Jenkins, any interjection on this 9 class hero matchup?
Were these not the 5 or the 4 that we said?
These are the 4, yeah.
And then add the Spirit Breaker.
Yeah, I think Spirit Breaker's the other. Wait, sorry, is this DM? The DM versus Yatoro?
No, so left side is what Pari are likely to pick, and the right side are heroes that are good against what you see on the left.
I see. Okay.
Would you tend to agree with the tough bad clock? They're pretty
Yeah,
good
I mean,
against
honestly,
that side.
I think Spirit Breaker in general is good against 9 class type playstyle because no matter where he is, he can always get on top of him.
anything with a jump, anything with a catch, pretty much anything that can blink initiate and catches and link heroes. Otto is a bit of a different style than the other 3, I would say, because he's not as much not playing on that different type of map. It's more about the combo. He greets the end lane, period. The way this hero plays in general is you're taking a lot of CS over off laner, messing it up, but also the combos that they did have yesterday, it was pretty insane. You have Solar Bind with Tiny, so you're getting that extra bit of a damage amp. You have EP, the magic damage amp on top of that, and also Tiny, one of the best, if not the best hero in the game to play auto with, using the cooldowns, allowing them to get multiple spells in a team fight. And it's game number 1 yesterday that they did play against Extreme Gaming. It was more about physical damage. They had Dragonite, they had the Slaughter, plus they had Solar Crest, they had Alacrity from Invoker. A lot of ways to amplify damage, and this is going to be the idea coming into this year.
Yeah, it's like a lot of buffs, and I do think that this lane is very important, like EM's heroes as well. You can see, like, I would expect Yatoro to play like an aggressive carry with hyper damage. He wants to try and have the carry matchup into Satanic, and like the ultimate carry for the game as well, like whether it's the Ursa or the Kez. I think Dominus could be a hero that we can see in this matchup. And then I look at the other guys as well, of course. We can't just look at the 3 and the 4. So you have Satanic. I would also say his hero pool, not currently the biggest. He sticks to his DKs, his Kez. I've seen quite a bit of Troll. And I do think when you look at what Spirit may be looking at, it's a lot of like anti-carries. Like the Primal Beast, Mars. I think AA as well is something we've seen them play before. Could be good against him. Same as like the Doom and the Viper. And then for no one, I'm not really too sure. I feel like this guy, he's really finding, he's playing so well. So for him, it's more about, I think it's more about like how do you match up with like the 3-man ball as opposed to like what is your 1-to-1 matchup. Maybe you can steal some of his heroes. Maybe you can have your supports come to the mid lane. But just to give like a little idea of what we should expect from both teams coming into this week.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I don't think you guys mentioned the Spirit. Did you see the Queen's video about Roche?
And the Radiant macro.
The Radiant macro one, you kill Roche at 17 minutes, you're guaranteed to basically likely to respawn on your side over and over again, discovering there's a high advantage. But he said in that video, because it was that if, as long as Crimson Guard is dispellable, physical damage is really overpowered because there's not a good way to prevent it, and you can use it to take Roshan on the Radiant side, forces the Radiant every time, etc. And I find it really interesting because now it is undispellable. So, and obviously, as the Paravision coach, he had a massive impact on the way that they play the game and still play the game. So now I question, like, how does the meta shift I don't think the meta has properly shifted, given that this item is now undispellable.
I still think that maybe it takes a bit more time because I'm expecting every game to have like a Crimson Buyer, or at least you have like a Centaur that can buy it, or a Mars. But we have not seen it in every game, which at least me it surprises a little bit.
Yeah, maybe when we like, I think picking some of these early offlaners like Centaur, who definitely wants to go for it. I think there was one game where we actually saw Tide going for Crimson Guard, because like that's how good of an item this
Yeah,
is.
it's
Like,
Yeah, 33 times.
But overall, we might be able to see some of the later picks as well for the offlaners, because it does allow you to see the matchup and then go for the Crimson if it's enemy carry showing early into the draft, seeing that it's going to be about all that physical damage.
We'll have to see what lessons are learned from Parivision also, because in the carry-to-carry matchups from their upper bracket series, there was Satanic on a Batten for game 1, which everyone was critical of. I'm sure even Satanic himself would look back on that and be like, I was not a fan of that pick. But game 2, it was Yutoro Ursa versus Satanic Kez. And still, Spirit had the advantage. So despite it being a high-speed carry versus high-speed carry, Spirit still had Parivision's number. Now, there have been a lot of development in Parivision's camp since that series, but fundamentally, it does seem that Spirit do know how to deal with Parivision.
I feel like, okay, so in that game, Spirit also had Viper, Viper SD, which I think are really good, like, anti-carries. And when we saw Parivision beat Ursa with Kez, they also picked Slardar, so they had another hero to, like, switch the balance in that matchup and make it so that he can actually win that one. So I do feel like since then, I agree that Parivision has developed their ideas, where it's like if they're going to force Kez as a hero, that they now understand how to deal with the counters. But I agree with what you guys were saying, like early on in your original segment, like Spirit is one of those teams that, like, if you give them any opening, like, I assume they've seen this. They've seen that the Sparta amplifies the Kez and that they can no longer just pick Ursa to beat Kez. Like, they're going to have something else prepared. Like, this is one of the best drafting teams of all time, which I feel like gets overlooked because they're one of the best clutch teams of all time. It's like, you know, you want to talk about Spirit, 2-time GI winner, 2-time Esports World Cup winner. It's like, we want to hype them up. But in reality, like, a lot of what makes them win is, like, they're just really, really good at figuring out a draft, like, within a series and outside of the series.
Especially like yesterday, they didn't look as hot as I was thinking, like against the Yandex. I thought Spirit would win that series, and they did not. And I think when you lose like that, there's a lot to talk about. Like after the series, what do we need to do different? And you also look at what are the other teams doing that are currently like succeeding a few days in on like a new patch. So they're absolutely like looking at what are Pari doing, you know, what are XG doing, even if you know they're losing, to like take a few bits and pieces here and there. And I think last time that Pari also played Spirit, they gave Spirit Viper like back to back in both games. And I don't expect that to happen again today.
Probably not. I think this is also going to be the battle of late game carries we've seen in the previous matchup, Kez against Ursa. But I think we're going to be probably leaning in this matchup slightly towards some like super late game carries, as we've seen that they banged out Medusa. Even though they ended the game 20 minutes in, he kind of channeled his inner miracle, 20 minutes high ground push with the Manta style and Butterfly. So I think we're going to be seeing these type of carries, potentially Terrorblade that could come out instead of being something super active. But yeah, very excited to see like how they're going to be approaching the drafts, because yesterday Parivision they cooked pretty hard.
If you're excited to see it, then I'm excited to show it to you. Let's get ready for our lower bracket final, game number 1.
It's getting to lower bracket final. I think it's good because previous tournaments we was not playing well. Tournament before on Wallachia we meet like Spirit Battle. Here we just meet LG that we just played once on Wallachia and we kinda underestimate them there and they beat us. But this time we don't underestimate and we win them.
It might be. They get the jump once more. The save need to come out. Nico comes in with the call. They get the overhead down here from Nightclass. They're controlling the gyro. They need to burn Natsumi out of this one. He's surrounded. The Raptor does come to Natsumi trying to run. He's fully solo. They've got him. They've killed him off. Rapier hits the floor. Satanic picks it up. It is going to be a very quick GG.
We feel okay about being in lower bracket. Of course, we said because we lose.
Sizing away from fights instead. Double escape deck. There's the chop. There goes Batrider. That's one. One down with no buyback. And Fly charging through all of these heroes with his BKB. Yutoro taking a lot of damage. Ticking out. He almost falls, but the time lapse goes off. Last second. Collapse gonna die. He's a double golem dropped on top of him. Goes dive in. Going at the wall. Quick tornado takes him out. Side device.
Paravision. I think it will be interesting because we played 2 series with them before this tournament. I think they will learn a lot from last 2 series, but we will learn today also.
Trying for the jump on Rue. It's a bit awkward. And now,
Oh my!
collapse just straight in with the Who Stomp. Completely destroys them, blasting onto Satanic. They tried their Paravision, they tried.
About playing against Team Spirit, I'm feeling good because it's time for us to beat them because we lost 2 last hour series, so it's time for us to come.
Now my question is, how many things have you learned from the Yandex series that you can exploit as Paravision? Because we've already seen that... What are you just doing?
I'm playing with his whatever this is.
Take it seriously.
Okay, sorry. Back to you, Neil.
Now we've learned a lot of vulnerabilities from Team Spirit in that Yandex series. Paravision have already shown that they already are weak to Spirit. It's 2 series that they've played, group stage and upper bracket playoffs. In that Yandex series, what did you see that you were like, yo, Spirit's not handling this particularly well? Or was it just an off day? And everyone can have an off day.
I mean, maybe it was a bit of an off day, but what I saw was a lot of the like 3-man ball that Yandex did. I also think they had a good answer to like the Viper that Spirit beat Pari with initially. Like this mid invoker, they were playing through it pretty nicely. So because I do feel like Dota is a lot about how does your mid match up with the 2 supports. And I think also for this series between Larl and no one, invoker for me is like very high in the priority.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Yandex is also willing to pick some heroes that like turn the meta on its head a little bit. Soxa playing Shadow Shaman, for example, is it's just not something we see at all. And the like chain disable, the ability to do damage with wards, like you could mention this hero against Viper, you can't slow the wards, right? It's physical damage. Like you just straight up don't care about Viper as a concept. Dazzle, same thing. Like this changes the game. Like you have to kill the Dazzle, right? So I think Yandex just has a grip on the meta that other teams don't, and these teams need to look at what they're doing.
It's interesting because they played these heroes in traditional ways. Like Shaman was played as the way that a usual 4 position would be played. Dazzle was played as a usual 5 position, whereas 9 class will play the semi-typical heroes like a Monkey King and I guess some atypical heroes like a Slark, but he will play them in completely wonky ways.
Yeah.